So being a pastor who lives in Kenya, you see people either they worship God, they worship the Holy Spirit, or they worship the demonic, or they believe in superstition. There really is no disbelief. But in America, we suffer from this this deception that there is nothing, that we are governed by nothing. There is no God. He does, and I think that probably has a lot to do with why we don't sing and dance very much. We have nothing to be happy about. We're kind of just sad, like, oh, there's nothing out there. My life is meaningless. Let me just like go about my day, and I'm not very happy all the time. What do you think about the pure disbelief and atheism that you see in America?
You know, there's an element of worship in a human being. That even if you don't worship God, there is something you are worshiping. Like in Africa, there are people who worship mountains some days. There are people who worship ancestors. There are people who worship rivers. Because you could look for something to worship, and if you don't find the real God, then you will find a different thing to worship. But the element of worship is in us. So anybody who's denying that is there's no God, I guess it must be worshiping something else, because an element of worship is in a human being. They know that there is some supernatural being somewhere that should be worshipped, but they choose to deny because of maybe some reason. Mm-hmm. But the truth is, there is an element of worship in a human being. I believe that even if it's not worshiping God, there is something it's worshiping.
So how do you evangelize to someone who doesn't believe in any higher power?
Some of these things we leave to God, and the Holy Spirit will minister. With us, our work is to share about the person we know, and God we know, and what He does. But the real conviction that will make somebody believe that which you believe is not our part. With us, we plant the seed, and God will do the rest. So sooner or later, the person will say, I suspect there's something you told me. Like for evangelism, you don't need to really push somebody to accept what you believe. You share the word. After sharing the word, up to him and up to the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit will minister to him. That is what we do, how we do evangelism. Because people who are forced to accept, they backslide easily. Because they accepted what they didn't really understand, and the Holy Spirit did not minister to them.
Yeah. So it seems to be the difference is that in America we worship ourselves. Mm-hmm. I think is the huge problem. Secular humanism is we worship ourselves, and that's why Hunter, you were saying everyone when COVID hit, it's like, man, my life is me. If I die, I'm really scared to die because I worship myself. I'm it. Like there's nothing else. Yeah. There's nothing else I care about. I worship myself. If I die, what is there left? Nothing. So, and in Africa, you brought up, some people worship mountains or rivers or trees or whatever. But I honestly think that there is a rise of that culture in America of people worshiping inanimate objects or like physical idols or actual, the world. I mean, we have a huge the climate change agenda in America. I don't know how much you know about that, but there is people worshiping Mother Earth. They worship the earth. They worship the ground because they say we have to sacrifice human flourishing in order to save the physical earth. And that doesn't, and to the average American, that seems progressive. That seems scientific. But in actuality, I believe that actually is regressing. That's going backwards because now we're worshiping things. Like we think we're so much more evolved and we think we're so much more better as Americans than pagan cultures thousands of years ago, but yet we're worshiping the earth just like they did. So there's not much of a difference, and I think there's an arrogance there in a lot of American atheism. And just like you said, when you don't worship God, you replace it.
There's something you're worshiping.
Else.
There is something you're worshiping. That's true. It's like we're putting like Lucky Charms, and we're saying that it's like broccoli or something that's like good. It's the same evil as before, but we're just putting it in a different box. We're calling it climate change, but in reality what it is the climate change
Earth
agenda
worship.
is paganism.
Yeah.
Basically. So I think it is interesting that you point that out, and I think it's interesting to see how in other countries, I think it tends to be more clear that they worship the created, and they'll admit that they worship the created. But I think in America, we need to get people to realize that they are worshiping something. And even, I'm an atheist. Well, like you said, you worship something. So I think that's a very good point.